I call the Monday, August 12, 2019 work session of the Portsmouth City Council to order. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Battle?
Here.
Mr. Clark?
Here.
Mr. Glover?
Here.
Mrs. Lucasberg?
Here.
Mr. Moody?
Here.
Ms. Simmons? Here. Mayor Rowe?
Here. And for everybody in the room, if you have a cell phone, please make sure that your ringer is on silence or off, please. And this is a work session of City Council, and if you're in the audience and feel that you need to talk or make comments, please go outside to do so. This is a business meeting of City Council, a work session. And if you persist in talking, I'll ask the Sergeant of Arms to just ask you to go outside and do your talking. Okay, with that, Dr. Pat.
Yes. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council. The first presentation, Connectivity Study this evening, Mr. Courtney Lauderman. Let me start again, please. Connectivity Study. The first presentation this evening, Mr. Courtney Violette, Chief Operating Officer of Magellan Advisors, and Dr. Greg Lauderman, Senior Consultant of Magellan Advisors, will present the results of the Strategic Connectivity Study as a part of City Council's 4 big things, becoming a smart city. The Strategic Connectivity Study will focus on the current state of connectivity, opportunities, regional collaboration, and next steps relating to becoming a smart city. The biographic information of the presenters is in the box. The second presentation, Mrs. Cheryl Spivey, Chief Financial Officer, will present the FY 2019 fiscal year-end operating results of the general fund and the city's largest enterprise funds. The information will be on a cash basis, thus will differ from the audited actual basis statement that will be reported in the comprehensive annual financial statements to be completed by November 30th, 2019. The last presentation, I Am Portsmouth, Portsmouth Proud campaign. During the City Council retreat of February 2nd, 2019, one of the 4 big things is telling the Portsmouth story. City Council, you requested a campaign to instill and build pride among residents. The presentation is a launch of a marketing and communication staff produced and is airing in 10 vignette series of Portsmouth service announcements on the city's municipal television station, PCTV. Tonight, Deputy City Manager LaVoice Pace will preview the vignette presentation, I Am Proud, Portsmouth Proud. Mr. Follett.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager. Thank you for having us here this evening. My name is Courtney Violette with Magellan Advisors. I will be presenting the findings from the Community Connectivity Study. We have been engaged for about the last 7 months on this project, and we're excited to be here to present those findings today to you. I am with Magellan Advisors. Our partner on this project is Federal Engineering. They're a longtime partner of the city's. They are a national leading public safety consultant with over 37 years of history here in Virginia. They have proven methodologies and direct experience in communications projects, and again have supported numerous projects of yours here at the City of Portsmouth. We're excited to leverage both of our strengths and experiences to, again, continue to support your communications-related initiatives. As for Magellan, we plan for and oversee the construction and management of network assets and network infrastructure across North America. We focus on wireless and wireline technologies, such as the fiber optic network you're building here today. We've been engaged with City of Portsmouth and Daniel and his IT team now for the last few years. We developed a master plan, fiber master plan for you just a few years ago that you've adopted. And today we have construction crews that are out in the field with about 60 miles of network to build. So that process is underway, as I'm sure you understand. We also focus on all the different aspects of connectivity around those networks, whether it be broadband, fiber and connectivity to government buildings, to schools, to homes in some cases. We focus on utilities, including smart grid networks, transportation systems, mobility initiatives, as well as healthcare and public safety initiatives, all through connectivity. We work with over 400 public organizations throughout the country, again, throughout North America, and we work with a number of customers here within the Hampton Roads region. So this project was really a focus on Portsmouth's connectivity requirements. When we say Portsmouth, not just the city's connectivity requirements, that was part of this, but also took into account the broader community needs around connectivity. We focused on fiber and wireless broadband needs, and we met with local constituents and stakeholders throughout this community, including regional entities and state departments like VDOT, which is obviously a major partner here of yours. We've explored the benefits of connectivity, opportunities for additional connectivity, and tactics that you can embark on and execute to, again, drive more connectivity and more expansion of your assets out into the community. And we've also outlined a number of recommendations in Smart City Roadmap that you can utilize as you embark upon this endeavor. It includes actionable next steps as well as measurable short and long-term impacts. I'm going to go ahead and let Greg take over from here for a few slides.
Thanks, Courtney. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and Dr. Patton, thank you again for having us this evening. So as Courtney mentioned, as Mr. Violet mentioned, we really did a very thorough review and discussion with a lot of stakeholders. We did a community survey of both households, residential folks, and businesses, and really looked very broadly at the requirements in the community. I think probably the key thing is that really you're in the middle of a digital transformation here in this community, just simply because of the nature of your industry, maritime industries, particularly shipbuilding industry and the seagoing transportation industries, but also fisheries are undergoing just really profound changes. Which way am I going here? So, excuse me, I'm sorry. So, first of all, just looking at where you're going currently with your fiber optic project, the pink on the slide gives you an idea of where the route is. And I think the most important thing you can take away from this slide is that the fiber infrastructure will interconnect pretty much all of the sites around the community, which is really the foundation for a lot of the opportunities here. And then with the regional connectivity ring, it's not just Portsmouth, but really expands it throughout the southern end of the Hampton Roads and really puts Portsmouth in the center of the whole region, along with the economy, with the actual physical connectivity. So it really positions the community very well for where you want to go. So let me just kind of talk a little bit about the study. As I mentioned, we did a market assessment to understand who is in the market, what the community's needs and interests were. We talked with a lot of your local stakeholders, from the ports and the shipyard to the Coast Guard, on down to small businesses and key industries. And then really from that we started to sketch out a roadmap for the city at a high level, just to say where would your connectivity needs go as you start to implement these smart city technologies. So just to give you some ideas of kind of what we found. So first of all, if good enough is good enough, then maybe you're good enough. Because really you have currently Cox in the area, and typically what we see in most communities is they've got the cable company, and that's everybody's first choice, and then DSL if you don't have access to the cable. Well, here you also have Verizon Fios. So in some ways, you're doing reasonably well for a lot of communities. Now, that said, there's a huge amount of opportunities, and we see and personally work with a lot of communities around the country that are moving forward very aggressively and frankly leaving most other communities just in the rearview mirror. So just some sense of where some of the impacts and the potential are. First of all, like I mentioned, we really did just a shallow consideration of what's happening in the maritime industries, and it is profound. The amount of technology that they're going to be investing all around you here is just amazing. The shipyard is about to go through a total physical reconfiguration, which they basically redesigned the shipyard. Connectivity is probably the #1 issue there for the operations, for the personnel and contractors that they have on site. Similar things at the ports of Virginia with the Virginia International Gateway and the Portsmouth Marine Terminal. Very aggressive technology investments. Coast Guard, over and over again, we see these anchor institutions with your colleges and universities very aggressively investing in technology. And of course, for your city operational needs, you've got to have connectivity. And it's just some of the recent instances you faced, I think, has probably given you an appreciation for how flexible you need to be. If there's an instant you need to move your operations, you've got to have the connectivity to do that. So there's a lot of requirements there, and I just feel like some amazing opportunities. And more than just some amazing opportunities, the quantity of really impressive opportunities that you have in this community to capitalize on this technology is really in a lot of ways unprecedented. So I think if you'd say, well, how are we doing today? Well, yeah, so you're kind of comparable with a lot of other peer communities that have a cable company and a telephone company. But there is huge demand for connectivity. Was there a question?
Yeah, to me.
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure that my colleagues on council don't have any questions up to
you can
this
stop
point, and if they do,
Stop at any time.
Yes, please.
yeah. Can you go back to the other slide? What about the healthcare industry? What did you find out there?
To be frank, we just had real challenges engaging the healthcare industry, and that's pretty typical in most communities. So I can tell you right off that healthcare is doing more with technology and data than ever before, and in some ways they're really almost under the gun because they have more data than they know what to do with. But we consistently find that healthcare stakeholders are challenging to bring into a discussion to understand what their requirements are, and particularly here where it's not just healthcare, but it's the Naval Hospital. We had huge challenges just getting in contact with the folks at the shipyard. And then once we contacted the right people there, had really amazing results. I think you'll see the same thing with healthcare. As you're actually deploying the fiber, then the healthcare providers will go, oh yes, well we really need connectivity. You're running fiber by our building, we want a part of that. But we were unable to really substantiate that in this study.
Questions?
Is there any
Lisa?
comparison to where we are with other cities at this point, or will that come later?
Well, the fact that you're actively building a fiber network that will interconnect all your city locations puts you ahead of the game, and really in a pretty rarefied company with progressive communities around the country.
I would agree. We respond to 15 bids or so a month of cities and counties that are trying to figure this out, right? And you all kicked that off about 3 years ago when you started the fiber master planning process. I think regionally, when you look at the map, right, Virginia Beach has extensive amounts of fiber, Norfolk has fiber, Portsmouth is building fiber, but the rest of the region's kind of blank, and they're playing catch up as well. So we like to think you're far ahead of the game at this point.
Okay. Elizabeth?
When you talk about the Navy and the Coast Guard in particular, so when we build this fiber, when this fiber comes knocking at the door of Norfolk Naval Shipyard or Coast Guard Base Portsmouth or whatever,
Yep.
is the military actually going to tune into or connect into our fiber, the regional fiber? How are they going to keep? How are they going to have the proper security?
That is an excellent question, and typically we see with the Department of Defense, they're very close to the chest about what they're doing and typically say, we've got things taken care of. But when we finally got to the folks at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, they were basically, we need as much bandwidth as you can provide us. However much bandwidth you can provide us to get from our facilities into the core network, they're ready to take it. And then also, well, with the Port of Virginia and their facilities, kind of a similar situation. And with the Coast Guard, it was a little bit different because they have some additional connectivity requirements because they're looking for hot site if there isn't a disaster and they need to move operations. But then the other thing with all of those stakeholders is they have lots of contractors, personnel, the shipyard itself has lots of folks living there, and all of that is driving their connectivity requirements even more. So they're essentially
Security side is on,
is on
that
them.
door is on that side.
Yes,
for them.
yeah, and then we had some discussions about that with them, and they're like, we take care of that, we can figure it out, we just need more bandwidth.
Just get it to the door.
Exactly, exactly. Any other questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, again, I think just the main thing I want to emphasize about this is that we were really impressed with not only the number and size, but the potential impact of the projects that you have here that you can capitalize on with your fiber ring. So like I said, similar as far as, yes, sir.
So talk to me like I'm a 2-year-old here.
Okay.
I mean, what does that mean to me? I'm a homeowner here. I mean, what is all this stuff you're talking about? Connectivity, bandwidth, all that. What is, to the end user, what does that mean for me?
It is access to opportunities. If you want a better job, you've got to have the connectivity, whether you're applying for a job, whether you're trying to get the training for the job, or really just the skills that you need to make use of the technology, you've got to have the connectivity. As a homeowner, it's as simple as, you know, the market value of your house goes up 3 to 5% just by having fiber come into your house. So it's very simple things like that. But I think when you look broader at the workforce challenges in the area and the mobility challenges in the area, all of that is being fundamentally transformed. You can just get around easier when you have technology. It really lets you connect anywhere, anytime, whether that's next door, whether that's into the Norfolk Naval Shipyard, or whether it's, you know, literally around the world by going through the cable landings in Virginia Beach. I mean, you have access to the entire world.
Let me share with you something that I learned on Thursday. Our regional transportation is Hampton Roads Regional Transit.
Yes, we had some great discussions with them.
We are 88 drivers short. They need a CDL license. And so we got a detailed briefing about that, because if you don't have the drivers, then you can end up with missed routes.
Right.
And so in working with potential applicants, they said, please put your application process on the cell phone. It was one of those moments where you go like this, like, oh, gee, is that what we need in order to get your application? The answer was yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And the important thing to remember is everything that hits your cell phone, well, that's wireless. Well, it all goes back to fiber. Fiber is the foundation for all other telecommunications connections.
So the other question, the backside of that, I like what I'm hearing here, as that neighbor I was telling you about. But so what happens in terms of security? You know, you hear about all this new connectivity, you're opening the door to the world, where you're opening the door to some bad players too. Right. And I've heard crazy stories like people will hijack your refrigerator, and you can't open your refrigerator. I mean, I don't know how true that is, but.
So if I could.
Yes, please.
Those are definitely concerns that are out there, right? You hear about them daily in the news cycle. The good news here is that with the Portsmouth network that you're building today, right, we don't envision, I haven't heard from city staff envision that you're going to be a provider of services, right, to residential homeowners.
Good.
So if you were to make your assets available and let a provider do so, right, the responsibility around security is really on them as being the provider in case.
Okay.
From the city's perspective, or any other anchor institution that's going to jump on this network, the schools, public housing, you know, right now they're connecting to a very public internet, right? And a lot of the traffic that you subscribe to between your facilities may even leave Portsmouth, right, and go hit Chesapeake or a nearby city.
Sure.
Daniel and his team here will secure the traffic locally, right, between each site. It won't traverse Virginia or Southern Virginia to get back here to provide connectivity for you.
Okay.
So what you're building today is going to provide, you know, profound security for your operation.
Great.
But you've got to staff for that. You've got to, you know, operate as such.
Right.
All right,
So that is all stuff that is being taken into account.
Bill's got a question.
Follow up on my colleague's question about the residential piece. A lot of our communities have the Cox and the Verizon fiber optic FiOS option. So what does this mean for them, if anything?
So we have a few slides from now. We dive into what does it mean for the residential and even the small business users. And what you'll see is based on survey data, right, of what people are paying for and what they're getting on their services. You'll see a range of cost at a unit level on Cox's service versus FiOS services versus DSL service. And what you'll see is that the FiOS users are paying far less, right, per unit of bandwidth than someone on Cox, almost 5 times less. So what does it mean? More competition, right? Hopefully drives down costs for everybody. Right now, there's no competition. Right now, 60% of your market is Cox cable, and very small portions are, a fiber offering over FiOS. So I think what you're seeing, right, the Chattanoogas, some of the other more progressive cities, is they're trying to get fiber to every household. It's the cheapest, best, fastest service that you can get, right? And it's future-proof. Okay. So we'll cover that here in just a few slides as well.
And just to go back to Councilman Glover's question about security, I'd point out that Norfolk Naval Shipyard, Port of Virginia, and a lot of the other stakeholders here are as concerned about security as anyone, and they are solving those problems here. And you have some great local small businesses like Simis, for example, that are working on these challenges. And this is kind of where good enough is not good enough, because if you want to solve those security challenges and have the world build a path to your door to get access to that knowledge and those solutions, you've got to have the infrastructure to do that. So basically, the fiber gives you the opportunity to create the products and services that everyone else is going to be looking to buy. So just a kind of really high-level overview of some of the potential benefits to the city. First of all, just really fundamentally improving your operations, whether that's just getting folks out in the field so that as they're doing permits and inspections, they can be out there actually working, and streamlining that process, or making it more transparent to the citizens, or really just providing more flexibility so that you can attract and retain the talent that you need to operate the city. There are revenue opportunities here. So for example, getting broadband out to this community, that's probably not something the city will do, but you might have a partner that comes in and does that and pays you for the privilege. So there's a lot of kind of revenue opportunities there, and some of the opportunities we identify in this have very substantial revenue opportunities associated with them. Addressing the 4 big issues, I know that the smart cities is one part of one of the 4 big things, but what we're talking about here hits squarely on every single one of those 4 big things. As you're telling Portsmouth's story, do you want to say that we're a technology leader that's changing the world for maritime industries and a leader in security research? Or do you want to just say, yeah, we're following along with that, what everybody else does? So I think it really hits in a lot of ways on every single one of your 4 big things. And probably the key to it is you need to bring more investment into this community. You're in some ways in a very fortunate situation, but you, as you're well aware, have major chunks of your city that are off the tax roll. So how do you address that? You're going to have to drive more investment in the community. The fiber is essentially a platform for doing that. It's a magnet for investment. And then lastly, I think the key, again, is that some of these things, we have no idea what's going to come out of it. The next generation is going to create solutions and products that to us today would be almost unimaginable. And instead of kind of trying to anticipate that and think ahead for them, let's just create a platform. Let's create a sandbox in which they can come here and do amazing things. And so I think in some ways there is huge revenue benefits and operational benefits and just community benefits to the city. But in some ways, I think really the biggest benefits are things that we would really have almost an impossible time kind of envisioning at this point. So at this point, I'm going to kind of pitch it back to Courtney to run through some of these connectivity opportunities with you.
We're going to pass this slide because they're mainly in the next. We identified 15 different opportunities. We analyzed those and provide findings and recommendations for each. We looked at each of these opportunities and identified a number of different attributes that we thought would help to help explain them a little better. And they include, what type of opportunity is it? Is it an easy government collaboration where an interlocal agreement might suffice? Is it a third-party external opportunity where you may need a partner to go attract revenue in some way, shape, or form? What's the complexity? What's the cost? Are there funding options around it? For instance, public housing. There are grant funds out there for installing high-speed broadband. We should look towards those. There's also some revenue streams here, and we'll talk about those here on the individual slides. And then we also try to identify timeframes to help the IT team understand kind of what a roadmap could look like, looking for things like low-hanging fruit. Right, there are easy opportunities, partnerships that can happen quickly for easy wins. So to kick this off, first and foremost, when we kicked off the fiber master plan 2 years ago, the city school sites were a part of that planning process. As you look at the map that is currently, or the network that is currently under construction, that fiber passes every school site that is here within the city. Currently, the schools pay, with the help of the federal government, almost $750,000 annually for site-to-site connectivity between their schools. The same thing that you all are building to connect your fire stations to City Hall and so forth. So that is revenue that is out there. Usually, this is through a bidding process because it is an E-rate process. Yes, ma'am?
Mayor, city managers.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, when our consultant said the schools pay $750,000, they get most of that money through an E-rate. Schools across the nation are subsidized for the connectivity and use of it. So they pay a very small portion of that.
They pay a very small portion. The overwhelming majority of that comes from the federal government. You, as the city, can apply to be a service provider in the USAC program, and when the school bid comes up, you can put a response in for that bid, and if you win, you can provide the same level of connectivity provided to them today.
Paul, you got a question?
The services, the exact services that you'll be providing, and the duration of those services to us.
They can subscribe to the same services that the city is building for itself today.
Your agency.
No. So we're helping you all through this engagement. We're a consultant partner that has been helping you all.
Right.
We are not providing any services.
What service are you providing, and how long is it going to be provided?
Sure. So we've been here for 2 years now, working through this process. We've got about 18 months to construct this network that is currently underway.
You're constructing.
We're helping to oversee and manage the construction.
Oh, okay.
You all the City Council approved a contract a few months ago for Janela Construction.
Right.
To do the construction. Those are the field crews that are out in the right-of-way right now digging. So we're helping to oversee and manage that process on your behalf.
And once it's completed, then you're no longer involved.
Once that's completed, we're done with the fiber build-out for the backbone. Correct.
Okay, then our services will be detached at that point.
Your services from your provider will be attached as the network becomes available. Questions on schools? Next is the PRHA, Public Housing Authority. Again, we had planned and passed all of those facilities and sites, so there is fiber optic cable sitting in front of most of these. Again, there are grant dollars out there available to fund extensions into the facilities, and in some cases, there are also subsidies for the monthly service if you hit certain thresholds and requirements.
And I should just note about the pink, that's actually a buffer around the fiber route, because we didn't, in this document being a public document, we didn't want to show exactly where the fiber route was going because that's sensitive information. So the pink is kind of the footprint of the network.
Correct. Number 3, we met with Tidewater Community College. They have connectivity requirements for their campuses. They also, once the regional ring is connected, have connectivity requirements outside of Portsmouth. So your network would provide the local TCC sites that are here in Portsmouth an on-ramp, if you will, to the greater regional network throughout Southampton.
And might note that they have a visual arts center here in downtown Portsmouth, and they're also looking at a trucking and distribution facility. So the fiber, I believe, would give you a competitive advantage in keeping the Visual Arts Center here and getting TCC to bring the Transportation and Logistics Center to Portsmouth.
They were very interested in the discussions in partnering and getting connectivity. They, like everyone else, need more bandwidth and have constrained dollar amounts to spend. There is a cost to extend the network to these facilities. They're not all right on exactly. You can see up here, there's a site that's fairly far off. But again, we do believe there's a business case here that could be made to extend the network. In this case, as in many of these opportunities, we don't have the answer here today. We've identified this as an opportunity, and what happens is great people like Daniel need to get around the room and have conversations to, again, further these discussions. These are opportunities, right? There's a lot of work that has to go in to make these actual initiatives that are executable. Yes, sir.
So can I ask a question? Sorry.
I saw his hand
Oh,
first.
no, that's okay. No,
You pointed out at Tidewater Community College facility that, would that be true even if that crossed city boundaries?
It would be. It would be. So you have the ability to apply for a permit outside of your jurisdiction, your city limits, and build network infrastructure. In this case, there may be an opportunity. I believe that's Suffolk.
Yeah, that's actually Suffolk.
There may be some opportunities to do some joint building, some joint construction with them. But yes, you can extend outside of your limits.
But the main campus is in Portsmouth.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Shannon?
Yes, sir. When you were talking about public housing, I just wanted to add just a comment. Cox today offers a program that is for children from Title I households, and I'm sure you guys are aware of that program, where they go in and they can offer a reduced fee for connectivity and also no charges to even set up the connectivity. Is that something kind of similar you could potentially do with this type of program that you're talking about?
Absolutely could. So providers across the country have, low-income programs. So
Right.
Typically, the child has to take it to school and get filled out. They qualify by being on low and free and reduced lunches. So yes, there are programs that the big incumbents offer. Cox offers it here in the community. But again, providers offer those in general.
Okay.
Across the board.
And as Courtney mentioned, there's actually tax funding available for providing internet connectivity into the public housing facilities. And so you'll find a really good partner there with the Public Housing Authority because they're very keen to do this. And then once the wireless is provided, essentially it can be set up so I think it's actually in the legislation for the tax credits.
Right.
Tenants basically can get that free access. Yes.
Thank you.
And during the school year, and I don't know if council had noticed it, during the school year, out at the parking lot of the YMCA by the Churchland Library, you'll see a lot of cars out there. Persons or families that don't have access to the internet can sit in that parking lot with their, the kids get the laptops or whatever they have, and they can do their homework or whatever right there. So we have a significant number of households right now that do not have access to the internet in their homes. And so all of this will help. And as the consultant indicated, there are a lot of grants that we'll be able to partner to go after as we continue this process to help those different areas.
All right, Lisa's got the floor.
And back under the Portsmouth Redevelopment Housing Authority, I'm a liaison to that board, so wanted to be able to understand that there's no cost and there's no revenue. That means they're going to have some access, but it's just going to be all funded by city?
So there's a couple different ways to do it. One, there's a couple different costs associated with it. One is extending the network to the facility. Right. That would have to be covered in some way, whether or not we find grants that are reimbursable or pay direct. The second part is the actual service. So we would not envision running fiber to every unit in the buildings, but providing a wireless distribution throughout the facilities. Greg, you can talk a little bit more about the discussions with them.
Yeah, so first of all, the Housing Authority needs connectivity internally just to tie together all of its offices and manage its operations. So it needs connectivity at that level. Then the Commonwealth of Virginia now has tax credits through its public housing agency to provide high-speed internet, and really the maximum tax credits you get consideration for is if you're providing internet access into the tenants' residences, and it's really up to the provider then to work out exactly how they want to structure the costs, but we often see providers that are going in and working with public housing at very low rates because, one, they've got basically a captive audience there, but also because, and this is really kind of what Cox is doing, is because it's just the PR value of being able to say, hey, we're doing something free. It costs them almost nothing.
Sure.
In fact, it basically costs them just a little bit less profits.
Yeah.
But it just looks great.
It does.
So,
Set up correctly, there is revenue streams tied to it. It's generally a subsidy based revenue stream. Greg and the team met with U.S. Coast Guard base Portsmouth, and those locations are the pink location.
yeah, so what we did here is actually, because the base Portsmouth is just kind of out there on its own, what we wanted to do is show kind of the relationship between the other major facilities in the area for a couple of different reasons. One is because they all have very similar requirements, particularly for disaster recovery purposes and backup, but because they're all generating traffic. I mean, literally vehicles running around back and forth through the city, and really feel that by providing better connectivity to allow them to virtually connect with one another, you can greatly reduce the amount of the physical transportation that's going on and capture more of the benefits from it. And in particular with base Portsmouth, the Coast Guard is basically replacing all of their cutters in the Atlantic Fleet, and base Portsmouth will be the headquarters for decommissioning all those cutters. And as much as there's materials and people flowing in and out of there, there's huge amounts of data too. And so between the data and all the transportation and the people, that is going to be a significant economic impact on your community, and having the connectivity is just going to allow you to capture more of that value in the community.
Stay here, Greg. Port of Virginia and the port users.
Oh, so as you are very well aware, you have an amazing corporate resident here in Portsmouth. Unfortunately, their facilities are not on the tax roll, but they are doing amazing things, and there's a huge amount of just billions and billions of dollars of goods that are coming through there. So with the ring, really what it does is it gives you two different opportunities. Again, they need connectivity between all their sites, including Virginia International Gateway, Portsmouth Marine Terminal. They are repurposing and redeveloping, and of course Craney Island is going to be one of the largest marine terminal facilities in the world once they get it up and running. All of it's highly technology intensive, robotic cranes, robotic trucks, autonomous vehicles. So they need huge amounts of connectivity to plug all these together. But then they've got contractors, stevedores, operators coming in and out of the base. Increasingly, all of that is digital, electronic, and hands-off. So all of those folks need connectivity too. And you have kind of this double opportunity by providing connectivity to pull more of that economic activity off of the actual port facilities and out into the community. So everything's from finance, logistics, software, et cetera, on and on. Those are things that you can pull off of those Port of Virginia facilities and into the community to actually drive your tax base. So this, in some ways, is probably one of your biggest opportunities, particularly because the Port of Virginia seemed very keen to partner with you to bring more investment into the community.
If they paid their taxes, we could probably afford to run a line right to them.
I have one question about the different slides. Under connectivity, the dark fiber lease versus the wide area network versus the metropolitan, does that just describe the type of entities getting it, or is it access level of?
Right up here.
Right.
So opportunity is obviously the opportunity who. Connectivity is the types of services they told us that they needed.
Okay.
So for instance, they would like a dark fiber lease to connect their facilities. They need a dedicated internet access circuit, which they would not get through the city. They would have to go to a provider for that. But they could get that across the Portsmouth network, right? and then shared internet access for people and contractors and vendors that operate on the facility. So they have 3 different needs from a telecommunications perspective.
All 3 of them are huge.
Because this is being televised, I think it's important to make this statement to the public that's watching this at home. This fiber ring is the middle mile where people, vendors can connect to and take it to the resident, take it to the business, take it to whatever facility.
Well, again, with your connection out to the fiber landing in Virginia Beach, here in Portsmouth, you can be directly to anywhere in the world. And as fast as you want to go.
We also met with ODU. Greg?
Yeah, so Old Dominion University, other than just being your local public university, is doing some pretty amazing things on the technology front, and in particular has the Virginia Modeling Center right up here. It's co-located near Simis and some other companies, so they've got a little mini tech cluster out there. But the funny thing is, as high-tech as they want to be, they're doing old-fashioned sneaker net. The guys at Simis, if they want to use the high-performance computing for ODU, have to physically carry their data across the street over to the simulation center and run their data. So, it's literally a tenth of a mile, less than a tenth of a mile, that we need to run fiber from the ODU facility into the center out there that would be a game changer, I think, for ODU. And also, they have a need for larger connectivity around the region and just more bandwidth. So they don't want to just connect into the visualization and modeling center. They want to connect into Port of Virginia. They want to connect into Norfolk News Shipbuilding. They want to connect to the Coast Guard, to these other big players. Really, they want to connect to the entire Hampton Roads area, because they're doing simulations and modeling that literally are all the traffic and weather and everything interacting out around the area. So they have some really big connectivity.
Bill's got the floor.
I'm really shocked at that. I mean, were you surprised that they were, what'd you refer?
Secret net.
Yeah, secret net.
Yeah, that's from the old days when you have to carry around the old floppy disks. So I need to print something out. I got to carry it down the hallway. And we're somewhat surprised, but not really. I mean, this is unfortunately the kind of crazy reality that we're in today. Is there can be just very high bandwidth users that need to work together, but you can't get there from here. And so literally, if you can make it possible to much more easily get from here to there, you're going to generate a huge amount of economic activity just out of basically running about a tenth of a mile of fiber.
Was there any interest or offer to Norfolk State University? I'm a Spartan, so. Yeah.
We bring them in too.
Yeah, okay.
We did not meet with.
But they are over on the side.
We did not meet with them, but all higher education runs on bandwidth,
Right.
yes. So.
One more for you, Greg.
Okay.
Norfolk.
Okay, so the Shipyard is really an interesting situation just because it is such a huge entity. I think they said they have 25 different DoD facilities operating there at the Shipyard, and that doesn't count just the huge list of contractors. They pointed out to me that at any given time they have tens of thousands of people actually living on the base there because they're coming in on the ships and they're contractors and they're service people. So what we did here is we actually kind of looked at a couple of different things. First of all, I said, well, where does the fiber go that's close to the Shipyard? And it was actually a recreation facility. They also said that what they call it, the Community Life Center down here is kind of a key area.
Center.
Right. So one of the things I thought was interesting that I heard from them is that the quality of life for their folks is utmost important because they really feel a need to take care of their service members and folks. So the connectivity is just really critical. And the other thing we did was say, well, okay, so on the base, on the Shipyard, there's going to have to be network access points in here. So we just did some kind of estimates to where those might be. And then, of course, with
Naval Hospital.
With the Naval Hospital. So that allowed us to just do some rough calculations on the costs that would be required to run fiber out to connect all these sites. So this is kind of a high-end estimate. So, for less than $500,000, you essentially could be a transformative force for the Norfolk Navy Shipyard. And, that's a substantial investment for the city. But, for the Department of Defense, $500,000, it's chump change. Well, not chump change, but it's an insignificant investment on their part for basically as much bandwidth as they could get.
2 hammers.
And again, I should just emphasize, I would encourage you to go out and talk to some of these folks about what they're doing. The kind of technology that they're looking to build into Norfolk Naval Shipyard and the Port of Virginia, and for that matter, the Coast Guard. Do you realize that the Coast Guard IT operations for the entire Atlantic area of operations is here in Portsmouth, and that literally extends across the ocean into the Middle East?
It does.
And they are doing a lot of amazing things.
Yeah.
And so I think they are just awesome partners to you all around.
Yep.
So the next few are going to focus on more municipal community focus. So first of all, enhancing public facilities and key areas with additional Wi-Fi. You have city-provided Wi-Fi in a few of your buildings, but as you can see from this map, there are numerous recreation centers, parks, library branches, museums that could all also benefit. And again, that makes additional Wi-Fi locations for low-income students who may need to have homework to take care of. It also provides access for your visitors, as well as for your city operations. So there's a number of locations we identified that could benefit.
Dr. Pat.
The Crawford Gateway-Downtown-Olde
Pat, you
Town.
had a question?
Sorry.
Yes, I was going to respond to, there was a request made by the senior center that they wanted to have Wi-Fi accessibility. That will be available to them by next week. So,
Yeah.
And really what
In
we're,
addition to holding your hands, if my colleagues and staff would just say question, and I'll recognize you.
okay, all right, okay. School.
well, and,
I'm so focused on what they're saying that I'm not seeing.
Right, okay, thanks, Mayor.
and really, we see this as an opportunity to come up with pretty much a standardized way of deploying Wi-Fi across municipal facilities that not only will give you a lot more flexibility, but help you control the costs of it too. So it's just a great platform for much more consistency across the community.
As we look at the Crawford Gateway-Downtown-Olde Town area, the two maps here we want to show is first and foremost are the sites that are here within that area, right? So city, community facilities. The second item we wanted to show was more of light poles, and as you'll see on the next few slides, just the amount of different community-based components that you could find within that area, whether it's manholes, whether it's kiosks, installing kiosks and so forth, other smart city types of initiatives. We look and we work with numerous cities throughout the country. Innovation districts are popping up. Folks are focusing on innovation in key areas, entertainment areas. As you look at the downtown waterfront, we look at like City of Fort Lauderdale, where we're working in right now. If you look at Las Olas, which is their waterfront, it's their entertainment district, people can take out a smartphone and you can actually look over the last 50 years what Las Olas looked like using augmented reality. So as you move your cell phone around, you see the old buildings. In your cases, you could see the old ships and the old things taking place and happening around the city. There's also things like Bluetooth beaconing, where when people walk by a store, right, they get a pop-up that says, hey, come on in for a free coffee today. So there's those types of things that cities are deploying, right, to make almost an interactive experience for its visitors, its residents, and the people that are...
We see a number of cities are doing things like smart vehicle test corridors. I really think that autonomous watercraft are going to hit the market and are hitting the market already before autonomous vehicles that use the public roads. And so you're really well positioned to have an autonomous watercraft test area with the Port of Virginia and the Norfolk Naval Shipyard right next door. Oh my gosh. And folks like Simis. Yeah.
These are big ideas, right? These are, smart city sandboxes. A city of your size has to find a place that it can try things and it can pilot new technologies.
And you want to mention why we have the light poles on there?
Yeah, so, the downtown waterfront looks like a key area. Light poles here, I believe those are city-owned assets within that area, right? So you have the ability to control how you do lighting, whether or not you want to install a smart street lighting system that dims or changes hue colors. It's also a great platform for smart city, right? The poles provide you access for cameras or Wi-Fi access points or environmental sensors. These are all things that are coming, and we're going to talk about a few more of those here in just a second.
We have the smart light poles that are on our new waterfront, that Halloween it'll turn orange, and 4th of July, red, white, and blue, so we are there.
So we're deploying these in Longboat Key, Florida right now, and one of the main reasons was sea turtle habitat. You have to cone and shade the beach, the light in the beach. So now they will be able to just control it remotely, dim the hues, change the brightness. So it's all very cool stuff. But this just seems like a great area. The museums, the visual arts centers, you've got fiber optic running down it here momentarily. So something to think about. Transportation mobility, right? This is one of the number one reasons why cities typically get into the fiber business. They focus, if you look out in California, where we have 30 or 40 customers, all of the networks they have, even if they don't connect other things, connect other third-party partners, they're connecting their traffic systems. And you have some of that here. Some of your traffic systems are tied together. But as you look across the community, there is just an enormous amount of traffic assets, whether it's cameras, unconnected school signals, proposed and connected traffic signals. You also have a number of partners in the area, transit, VDOT. We're working on some resource sharing agreements for bridge access for your fiber network. So these are all partners that impact your transportation here in the community. Connecting all of those devices, connecting your traffic cabinets is paramount to mobility and transportation improvements. 5G cellular backhaul. We all know that wireless communications is improving year after year. We are on the forefront of 5G being deployed here in the next couple years. Instead of the more traditional cell phone towers that we've all become accustomed to, right? These are going to be 20 or 30-foot towers that are basically within your rights of way, every 300 to 500 feet. The city's already receiving applications for small cell, right? So this is going to go away, and you're now going to have small cells deployed throughout your corridors and throughout your city. The network you're building today can provide the backhaul and the fiber connectivity for those small cells as they become deployed and as your network's available. There's high revenue tied to that. And also right now the cost is unknown because we don't know where they're going to be deploying within Portsmouth. We have a few applications that IT's received to date, but again, many more to come.
So that everybody understands the terminology, can you define backhaul for everybody, particularly our viewing audience?
Yeah, so backhaul is more of your middle mile network, the large capacity fibers that carry your traffic to somewhere else. So in your case, your network is backhauling all of your facilities right onto your backbone. The regional network will then backhaul you right to the rest of the region and to the transatlantic cables. But backhaul is the high-speed backbone, if you will, that connects everything. We'd also point out, and Daniel and I spoke about this a little while ago, there's some opportunities to connect your public safety communications towers in the future and maybe forego microwave requirements. That's a huge boost to resiliency of your systems. And then smart city connectivity. So as we work throughout cities, and I'm sorry this is so busy, but you guys have a lot of stuff going on, whether it's lift stations, pump stations, manholes, various sensors, traffic signals. Cities are connecting things today. Weeping manholes. Do you guys have weeping manholes? Do people call and say water is coming out of the street when you have major events?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cities are now putting manhole sensors so that you're notified when 80% capacity and you can go out and do something about it before residents start calling.
That makes sense.
Lift stations, pump stations, right, for alarming and alerting. Things are getting connected, and you all have a lot of what we would just call community type of infrastructure components between your utilities and your mobility networks and so forth. This is coming. There's going to be a point where you're going to be fiber connecting a lot of things, but you're also going to be connecting wirelessly to a lot of these other devices. If you think about your SCADA networks today, you're doing that over RF, regular radio frequency, right? That will progress to where you're connecting over internet protocol and fiber backhaul as it progresses.
Well, and the cellular telephone companies would love to charge you $9-10 a month to put cellular modems on every single one of those devices. But think about what that does to your municipal budget. Where the network really gives you a platform to deploy very economical, low power, wide area network, wireless, whether that be for, reading your water meters, or whether it's environmental sensors, or things like tracking vehicles that can greatly reduce the cost that you're handing over every month to your cellular service providers.
So we just have a few more slides and we are done. Promise. Obviously, major opportunity with the regional ring. Again, just want to point out, you can see Virginia Beach has a ton of fiber in their area. Norfolk, your network is under construction. There's some work to do out here in some of the surrounding cities. But this backbone ring, which is the green line, is at 30% design. You all have been briefed on it, we understand, and it is, again, progressing forward. It's a huge opportunity for the region and for Portsmouth specifically. As we look at the business and residential broadband services, as Greg said, we did do a survey. Greg, do you want to walk through these briefly?
Sure. So this is written up in a lot of detail in the actual report, and encourage you to slog through that because there is a lot of really good information in here. But basically what we wanted to do here is just give you a sense of the speeds. So you can see here that the gold and yellow are basically minimum for broadband to be considered broadband. So you can see a lot of that gold and yellow. The green is where you get up to faster true broadband speeds. And a couple of things that I think are interesting to point out here is that it's pretty widely distributed across the community, the different speeds, and including a few places where folks reported that they said they couldn't even get broadband. So I think what you end up with in the community is, essentially the providers have really kind of focused in on some of the areas where they can get more return on their investment, where the wealthier community, parts of the community, and then probably not as invested in heavily as other parts of the community. So you really kind of end up with an uneven playing field is basically what it comes down to. And that not only, one, I think just kind of reduces, like I was talking about, this is access to opportunities.
Right.
So this is essentially a story about reduced access to opportunities. But the other thing we're talking about is, in order to leverage the network to address this issue, you're going to need a partner. And this tells me there's a great investment opportunity here for a partner to come in and say, hey, this is marginally served community. We can come in and work with the city to take it to a whole new level. I mean, there's no reason really that anyone should be getting less than 100 megabits of throughput. It's just, in today's world, I mean, I'm from Chattanooga, and 50 megabits is the basic that EPB provides. That's the bargain basement. I mean, they're like, no, take 100 megabits, take 300 megabits. Right. Here, have a gig for $70 a month. I'm like, what would I do with that? Well,
Shannon's got the floor.
No, I didn't have
I
a
thought you
question.
had your hand up.
so I think it's a great opportunity there.
So over 64% of the users that responded are served via Cox Copper. There's a portion of those, about 32%, that have Verizon Fios available to them, which is a fiber optic offering all the way to the house. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Pat.
And that only comes to the Churchland Bridge. Anybody over other side of the bridge, which I've tried to get when I returned here, Fios, and they just said it's not there and it's not coming. So then that gives a whole section of our
Well, there are loads of neighborhoods all over this side of the Churchland Bridge that
Can't
is
get
not
it.
coming either.
Yeah.
There are communities across the bridge that does have fibers.
Fios.
Yeah, Southampton area,
Okay.
Fairfields.
Yeah, on this one, the blue represents Fios. Now, one of the issues we have is that folks don't always know what they have. They know they have Verizon, but whether it's DSL or Fios, they're not totally clear. But I think you can see that even if we give them the benefit of the doubt, this whole section here.
Yeah. The punchline is that the whole city is not covered by Fios.
Right, and we should be, yes.
At best, a third.
Right.
So these quotes to your left came straight from the surveys, right? One respondent said, better connect with their teachers, other students, and have the increased learning opportunity, better access to virtual healthcare, access to doctors. Cox has a monopoly in the area, and they charge extremely high prices for slow speeds, and again, another endorsement for competition. The next slide, I think, takes this a little bit further. This table is always very interesting. So you have Cox Cable, which we know is a copper product offering. Verizon Fios is the only fiber offering. And then you have your DSL services, right? Old legacy copper service offering. So when we take the monthly recurring costs that were reported, the contracted speeds that they're supposed to be getting, the speeds they're reporting on average, what you end up with is a cost per megabit, which is the unit, right? Yep. So you can see that Cox customers pay almost 3 times more than a Fios offering on a per unit basis for total throughput. So it's a legacy system, right? Less throughput, less speed, highest cost, per unit basis.
So note that Verizon Fios, on average, reported paying $75 a month just for the internet, where they're getting around 200 megabits per second upstream and downstream, compared with folks saying we're paying about $90 a month to Cox, where on average we're getting pretty good download speeds, 144 megabits, much less upload speeds, and especially if you want to do telecommuting, if you want to work with healthcare providers, if you want to be a producer rather than a consumer, that's just not adequate. And then you take it to the actual speeds, and Cox is saying, yeah, we're delivering 144 megabits. You're actually getting a small fraction of that.
Well, and that probably explains why they're running into a lot of competition with other streaming devices out there. Matter of fact, my neighbor was asking me, they just went with that, and the savings was tremendous over what they were paying for Cox. But getting back to the city's position in the selection of that partner, I would think, obviously, we have a lot of leverage in that process, a lot of profit opportunity, but couldn't that partner be one of those carriers?
We are doing multiple public-private partnership development and negotiation projects right now. I've got 6 right now that I have not had an incumbent provider respond to at all.
Okay.
But they could, right? They could, but what they do is they submit a one-pager that says, here's who we are and here's what a great partner we are in the community. And that's it, right? We have other regional and national providers that are responding in-depth responses because they want to earn the right to be a partner with the municipalities that we work with.
Let's go to Shannon.
So just so I'm clear, at the end of the day, once this fiber ring is installed and in place, we will be able to hopefully get those types of services at a lower cost.
We would hope that you could bring a partner in town that would reduce the cost because there's now competition. What I would add is if you look at the community where Greg is, which is run by Chattanooga Utilities, EPB, we just presented last week at the city of Lakeland, Florida, which is considering a fiber to the home build. Mount Bellevue, Texas, which is just outside of Houston, 3,500 homes just built. If you look at an $89 package for a gigabit, that's less than 10 cents. That's less than 10 cents a meg. That they're paying for a municipal or electric utility-based offering.
Well, and your network provides a platform for competitors to more easily enter the marketplace and compete head-to-head. But even without that, like I said, I'm Chattanooga, and we couldn't get the time of day from Comcast or AT&T before EPB said, we're going to go into the business. And guess what? Now that the local electric utility is invested in broadband, now AT&T and Comcast are like all over the place and spending huge amounts of money in the market.
Okay, Lisa's got the floor.
Okay, so I know I have Verizon Fios because it popped up on my screen the other day.
That's how they knew it.
But does Cox know, are they making any changes to try to be more in line with these competitive prices? Is because when people find out that there's a better option and everyone start switching over, then somebody's going to be out in the wind.
Yes.
I can read this to you right now. Telecommunication construction. Currently, the laying of fiber across the city by the municipality has sparked 3 other entities to lay fiber. The other carriers are upgrading in preparation of the transatlantic cables. Cox Communications, Verizon, Loomis, Segra, and the city of Portsmouth. And you know we're doing it. Also, in 1 month, the city's municipal fiber project has completed 14,000 plus linear feet of conduit. So they see us putting this fiber in, and now these, which I've shared with you, are doing some upgrading.
The important thing with all of these, especially from a municipal perspective, is, right, the business case for you to build your backbone has always been based on your internal savings, right? Reducing your telecom spend.
That's right.
All of these other opportunities are icing on the cake, if you will, correct? You're afforded these opportunities now because you own the asset and you're not beholden to someone or some company. What I would add, again, some great comments in the surveys. All of the survey information is in the report. So again, take a look through it. There were some great comments and feedback from your constituents. All right, last one. Obviously, you all have a number of economic and site development opportunities within the community. We did meet with your economic development folks here at the city. So we wanted to point out that most of these sites that they have identified for development, redevelopment, again, are within close proximity of the network. So again, great opportunity to continue expansion in those regards.
Yeah, and really, I think we would encourage you to look at this whole project not as a technology or an infrastructure project, but as a community and economic development project. Because the potential economic impacts that you could drive from this are phenomenal.
Yeah.
So in conclusion, your community, your government, the region is going to require more connectivity. The good news is you and a number of other cities in the region are already planning this. You won some awards recently at the national level for smart city stuff, so that is great. And you all are part of that discussion and moving this forward. Your network is the foundation for your connectivity plans for your community. The highway that connects you to the greater region, to transatlantic, again, that's the backhaul piece. The local last mile, your local street system, if you will, you've got under construction today. We think there's great third-party partnerships. There's great collaboration opportunities that can be afforded through this. You all have to continue the discussions with these opportunities and these people that we've identified. And then lastly, next steps. You all are obviously building this network, but at some point you should look at some type of seed money to fund some of these expansion opportunities as the business case becomes clearer. We never recommend that you should go out there and build it and hope they will come. Work these opportunities, create the partnerships, find the solutions and the initiatives, and then make the investments as you need to. Anchor site interconnection, dedicated internet access, broadband services, other expansions, smart city, Wi-Fi, all of these are opportunities for you to consider. We did provide a smart city roadmap as an action plan so that you as a city can begin to organize, plan, and execute on some of this. There's governance, there's internal working groups, and things like that have to come together in order to support these initiatives.
Yeah, I should emphasize that we developed the roadmap for the study to just kind of give us an idea of where the city would be going, but there's definitely a lot more detail in it, and then really just engaging with your stakeholders. Like you said, Norfolk Naval Shipyard, Port of Virginia, a lot of these folks are probably more advanced on smart city stuff than most cities are. So we're going to be great partners with you on this.
And we do believe that there needs to be some type of smart city working group, someone that can work with IT and the partners to further this process, to implement and manage that smart city roadmap. Ma'am, I'll leave that up to you to decide how that working group is assembled or how it should be. But we do think that someone should assist IT in moving this forward. Again, it's not just a technology project. And with that, we're here for any other questions you may have. We thank you for the time.
Good job.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
And thank you for not putting it up here on this level.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Now we'll have Mrs. Spivey to come forward with the financial report for FY 2019 unaudited. Thank you all.
Good evening.
Hard act to follow.
Thank you. Tonight I'm going to present an update of our fiscal 19 status. We're going to focus just on our three largest operating funds, the general fund, the public utility fund, and the waste management fund. This information is literally hot off the press. Today was the last day to pay bills for goods and services that were received on or before the end of our fiscal year, which was June 30. So, so these very, very fresh numbers. Something I try to remind everyone of every year when I present at this time of the year. These numbers are cash basis and are unaudited. So, so any accruals that are made between now and November when we present the CAFR are not going to be reflected in these numbers. So these are truly money that came in and money that's gone out.
On the revenue side, it's the same thing.
Right.
It's actual, open up the box and there's that much money.
That's right. That's right. So, but this should give a flavor for how we ended the year. In the general fund, we had budgeted $236 million of revenue. $246 million of expenditures, and in addition to that, we budgeted right at $10 million of use of fund balance. Our revenues came out almost exactly, as you can see, very close to 100% of what we budgeted. Our expenditures came in 1% lower than what we budgeted. And so that resulted in, instead of spending $10 million of fund balance, we spent $8 million of fund balance. So we did decrease our fund balance, but not as much as we had planned to decrease it. In the public utilities, the budgeted revenues were $43.4 million. The expenditures budgeted were $46.4 million, and we budgeted the use of fund balance at right around $3 million. Our revenues and expenditures came in very close to the same. I have the number as not having a difference. It's less than a $100,000 difference, about $80,000 difference between revenues and expenditures. So, so basically, we're in our public utility fund. We're not having to use fund balance to it operated. Though revenues were lower, expenditures were even lower. So, so it operated at no net loss. For our waste management fund, we budgeted our revenues at $10.8 million, and we budgeted our expenditures at about $12.7 million, and a use of fund balance of $1.9 million. This fund operated very close to how we budgeted, so the expenditures were less than what we budgeted, but so were the revenues. Offset, very close to what we thought they would be. So we are using fund balance in that fund at $1.6 million, so instead of the 1.9 or 1.6.
Off the top of your head, and if you don't know the answer, that's okay. In round numbers, what is the fund balance in the waste management fund, roughly?
Isn't it about?
I don't know. I can't.
If y'all can get that.
We will
We'll
get
get
that out.
that too. We'll have it tomorrow. I think it's about 11 million.
Right. Any questions?
Elizabeth.
This is probably not for you to answer, but how in the world did we spend $10 million less in public utilities? I mean, that's a lot less expenditures to go from 46 million to 38. Did we not do something?
consumption might be down.
Yeah, I could do, we could
a
do,
whole
we could
project
do
or
more,
two, it has
more
to be.
analysis, but
See why.
as the mayor said, if consumption's down, then so are expenditures.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause, unlike other types of revenues, it's based on usage.
Right. It just seems like a huge drop in expenses.
We will have a projection and come back.
You don't produce water that you don't use, so your production costs will go down.
Does it really go down exponentially that way?
It goes down. Well, there's a direct relationship, it depends.
There is a direct
balance.
relationship,
Okay.
but it's not one for one, but.
Waste management.
Is there some municipal purchases that were less outside of our own consumption? Or do we know?
We can do a deeper dive into that
I don't know
analysis.
off the top of my head.
It seems like a big drop.
It is a big difference.
Well, revenue, dropped 5 million.
Oh,
So it's proportionate
one of the
somewhat.
things, and Mr. Ashby, which we haven't thought, you remember the new relationship with
Chesapeake.
Yes, so we'll get, yes, that's
But that's
definitely
on the
it.
revenue side, not on the expenditure side.
Well, but then we wouldn't be spending as much.
That's
to
what I
make
was
it-
mentioning.
yeah.
Right,
Municipal
we'll come back to you, but
Okay.
that definitely is some
It's
impact.
the same amount of water,
Right.
but paying less for it.
We'll come back.
We will.
Okay.
Any other questions on this slide? We have one more slide, and that's the general fund balance update. So we began the year with $56.7 million of unassigned fund balance. So that's the amount of fund, the type of fund balance that we can use for emergencies and opportunities. Throughout the, beginning with the original budget, we budgeted to use about 5.8 million of that fund balance. And then throughout the year, we added some additional use of the fund balance, the one-time retiree supplement, the one-time employee bonuses, and the purchase of 206 High Street. So for our budget, we expected the general fund, unassigned fund balance at the end of fiscal 19 to be about 46.7 million. Turns out it's slightly higher than that. Again, we did use fund balance. We went from 56.7 to 48.7. So that, we have a minimum fund balance level of 15% of general fund revenues. With this number, it leaves us at 21%. So we are above our minimum, but a minimum's not what we planned for.
But you picked up an asset, though, that's
Oh, we picked up,
Purchase.
yeah, we
like
got an
trading
asset.
a liquid asset for a fixed asset. Bill?
How soon, all of us aware of what we had told the retirees, that we were going to take a look at the end of the year? Where do we stand on that?
That information wasn't from the actuaries in October, was the time frame?
I think so.
Yeah, it was October before they would have the actuaries that they would come back. So,
The actuary is going to come back with,
firm numbers. As I recall,
Can't do anything.
the question was whether or not, once we had the CAFR numbers, that was the question. But we'll take a look at it and make sure, look back at the tape. But I thought that was the time frame, Councilman.
yeah, and as we look at this projection, obviously, it's not the CAFR, but it's a pretty good barometer.
we had the retirement presentation a month or two ago, of which our financial advisors shared with us what actually has to be done with the retirement. And we're like at 68 and we've got to get to 80. So it made it clear that anything that we try to do, we've got to go to 80. We can't go any further than 68 to where we are. And that has been presented and shared with the retirement board. Your liaison has come back and shared. So the board, will be looking very closely and coming back.
So what are you saying? We're making a call on that now?
No, I'm not saying we're making a call on it now. I'm just saying that the retirement presentation was made to council, so you can see exactly where we are. And we've got to move to, we're having the bond item that we're hoping to get $5 million, which is in place right now to put in the retirement
I
fund.
think, if I hear you correctly, it's 2 months. It'll be September and October. October would be the answer when it comes back.
When we would be making a recommendation. Okay.
And that was my question.
Yeah, but we just,
Question.
Lisa, it's got a question.
We talk about a lot of different fund balances in the general fund. Is there any update on the risk management fund? I know that we're expending a lot from out of that, but don't know how that factors.
I didn't include that in this presentation because when we have the CAFR, we will have a good picture of that, and that is a fund that we want to see what the accrued expenses are because it's based on claims. So we will have that information in the CAFR, and we can include it in the CAFR presentation.
So we got that in the utility fund balance that the mayor mentioned.
Why don't you just cover all the fund balances for all the funds?
we could, those that we have.
And since you mentioned the claims with workers' comp claims, I know that they go in and sometimes they might be denied, but the ones that are denied, what happens to them? How are they paid if they're not?
They're denied, they aren't paid.
We use consultants who do our as far as what our liabilities are,
Right.
they assist us in preparing those liabilities.
Okay.
As far as if you're asking the operational question, I'd have to let someone else handle that.
Okay.
What is your question?
I guess just with workers' comp claims or any kind of claims, if they're denied, how do they get paid?
Let's let our HR
Okay.
director come.
Yeah, she'll come forward.
Right.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Your question, Vice Mayor, was what happens to a claim when we deny it?
Right.
What we do, we pay for all claims up until the point in time they're denied. So, for example, if an employee has an injury, we will pay all those claims. Once that claim has been denied, we don't pay any future claims, so they don't get penalized in that regards.
Okay.
So that's kind of what happens to them in that.
Right.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes.
Anything else? Other questions?
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. White.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have I Am Portsmouth Proud Campaign Deputy City Manager Pace.
Sure.
To this.
Thank you, Dr. Patton. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, good evening. You spoke and we listened. In response to your directive from the February council retreat, Marketing Communications has been working to recruit and solicit residents that have a sincere passion for Portsmouth. As evidenced by what you will see in the Portsmouth Proud vignettes, this campaign was launched as a year-long promotional campaign with no end in sight. So if it continues with the same level of excitement and enthusiasm as our first 12 vignettes, as we believe it will, we will continue to capture the energy and passion of our citizenry. In addition, still graphics, e-blast messages, these vignettes have been uploaded to Adams Outdoor Advertising 264 digital boards east and westbound, to over 48,000 subscribers, viewing audiences on social media outlets to include Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor, Twitter, and YouTube. And email blasts also are being distributed to Portsmouth Community Connections listserv, which has nearly 4,000 subscribers, with a call to action that encourages them to contact Marketing Communications to be featured within this campaign. To that end, we received a Best of Agency favorite post on Nextdoor for the month of July. The caption read, "Portsmouth Proud." The City of Portsmouth has been introducing some of their residents on Nextdoor as a part of their Portsmouth Proud campaign. We love this idea. Nextdoor is now international. They send emails to 240 neighborhoods in 10 countries every month. As of Friday, they've also asked us for our permission to post the Portsmouth Proud campaign on all of their other social media sites, to include Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, we obliged. The campaign is very diverse in that it includes citizens, business owners, city employees, and community partners. To date, the department has received rave reviews, positive comments, and expressions of approval. The target demographic for this campaign is the entire city of Portsmouth, and we will continue to launch a multifaceted marketing approach in telling this story. The goal is to build community pride and passion. Bolstering pride in one's community results in increased involvement and attendance at city-sponsored forums and events, enhanced livability, heightened support, and awareness of city offerings and services. It also creates champions, advocates, and community ambassadors in accomplishing city goals of telling the Portsmouth story. Let's view the Portsmouth Proud Portsmouth campaign sizzle spots.
Hi, my name is Terry Danaher. I live in the Old Town neighborhood where I've lived for about 16 years. My favorite thing about Portsmouth is the Portsmouth Art and Cultural Center, where so many great things happen. We have phenomenal art exhibits and, of course, the Old Town Portsmouth Farmers Market, which I happen to run. So join us in Portsmouth. I'm Terry Danaher, I'm Portsmouth, and I am Portsmouth proud.
I am Rosa Mayfield, and I am employed here at Soul Right Men's Shoes on High Street. I have enjoyed working here at Soul Right Men's Shoes. I love the culture, the different type of people, the different stores in Portsmouth. My name is Rosa Mayfield. I am Portsmouth, and I am Portsmouth proud.
Hi, I'm Walt Spidell. My family and I moved to Portsmouth in 1982. When I think of Churchland and Portsmouth, I think of the people. It's a melting pot of people, all sorts of backgrounds, origins, ages, gender, of course, race, etc. It's a wonderful melting pot of people. I am Walt Spidell. I am Portsmouth. I am Portsmouth proud.
Hi, I'm Todd Elliott. I grew up here in Portsmouth, and I love Portsmouth. There's lots to love about our city. The history, my family came here in the 1860s, the culture, but especially Portsmouth people. I'm Todd Elliott. I am Portsmouth, and I am Portsmouth proud.
Hello, my name is Ken Woolard. Portsmouth is my hometown of choice, and I have lived in the downtown neighborhood for 25 years. I love our city's culture diversity and find it to be a welcoming place for all. I am Ken Woolard, I am Portsmouth, and I am Portsmouth proud.
I am Clyde Towne. Proud to be in Portsmouth. Portsmouth is a great city. Been here over 40-some years. Retired United States Marine Corps and United States Army, World War II, and Korean Vietnam veteran. This is a great city. Always been a great city. And I returned back here and retired because Portsmouth is my heart and I care about this city. It's a great city. I am Clyde Tola, I am Portsmouth, and I am Portsmouth proud.
I'm Burl Stromberg. I've lived in Portsmouth for 52 years. I moved here when I was 8 years old. I live in Old Town, and what I like about Portsmouth is its small town, hometown friendliness in the middle of a large metropolitan area. I'm Burl Stromberg. I am Portsmouth, and I am Portsmouth proud.
Ramona Ransom. I've worked for the city of Portsmouth for almost 40 years, and what I love about Portsmouth is I grew up in the Mount Hermon section of Portsmouth, where everybody was somebody and still is. I am Ramona, I am Portsmouth, I am Portsmouth proud.
There's a nice smile.
I am Irv Lindley. I am living in the Old Town section of Portsmouth with my wife Dottie. We've been here for 17 years. And what I like about Portsmouth is the fact that when we got here from day one up until now, it's been family friendly. And we also are appreciative of the historic district. Our house was built in 1795, and we just have good neighbors, and we're just really proud to be here. I am Portsmouth, and I am Portsmouth proud.
Amber Ryan Green. I am a native of Portsmouth, Virginia. I live in the Churchland community. I have lived here for 29 years. What I love most about Portsmouth is the unique fellowship amongst citizens coming together. I'm a recent hire with the City Treasurer's Office, and I am blessed to serve the citizens of Portsmouth. I am Amber Ryan Green. I am Portsmouth, and I am Portsmouth proud.
I'm Peter Youngblood. I've lived in Portsmouth for 19 years, and I find it to be a place where we've got a sense of community. It feels like a small town, reminds me of living in Europe. I just can't picture living anywhere else. I'm Peter Youngblood. I am Portsmouth, and I'm Portsmouth proud.
My name is Cortland Mariner, and I've lived in Portsmouth my entire life. The thing I love most about this city is the support system. The Department of Parks and Rec groomed me from a young age to learn different skills that I still use to this day. So I really am appreciative of our city and how we uplift one another. I'm Cortland Mariner, I am Portsmouth, and I am Portsmouth proud.
Very well done.
Good job.
These are all unscripted. These are comments made by the citizens.
Exactly. And we want to make sure that they were unscripted because we don't want it to be a contrived campaign. You asked for us to try to bolster community support among our citizens, and they are happy about doing it. We're still getting more people that's calling asking to be featured. So.
I love Sergeant Major Tola.
I know it.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, great job. And by the way, who does the Nextdoor and Facebook and Twitter? Do we manage that internally?
We do.
Well, please let everybody know they're doing a great job with that, and we really appreciate all the efforts. One of the things that when I saw this advertised, this program, I thought about the members of council, and I know we talk about speaking with one voice, and we talk about putting out a positive image from council. I thought maybe it might be a good idea for us to participate in the campaign. Something for you all to consider. As a council, we could participate in the campaign to let everyone know that we're Portsmouth proud as well. Don't know how we'll do it, but I think we've got a great marketing team that could help us put that together. So.
I think it's an interesting thought. I think, though, the real benefit is the citizens.
Sure.
And Someone might think that having an elected person up there or a group, which you're suggesting, might be a paid political statement.
Somebody asked me what I do, and I said no. I mean, a citizen asked me, and I said no. But I think it would be fun if for some future video program, maybe even the State of the City next year, if we had at least the 7 of us sitting there saying, I'm Portsmouth and I'm Portsmouth proud. And we are the city council saying it so that it can be a tagline at the end of some presentation.
Like all of us saying it.
All
in
of it
unison.
together. Yeah, right.
Yeah. It would probably fit in and be appropriate in that context.
Sure. As a team.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And another point is, this came out of our retreat, some of the people might not even realize, he just explained that to everybody, but some of the people participating might not know where it came from. And that's where it started, and then we all agreed to it, and then they took the ball and ran with it, and I think it's great.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. And as a memento, some people ask, were we going to have Portsmouth Proud buttons? We are going to have the buttons. We've already ordered them. They've not come in yet, but I made you some makeshift buttons.
And you want us to wear them?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
you can.
Yes.
Is this like a prototype?
We can wear this tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're testers.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it's cool.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Here we go.
People been asking for, first the city clerk asked where are our buttons, so he got very
Speaking of
busy.
a hot commodity, I'm kind of off track, but the hat that I wear a lot, that's the straw hat with the Portsmouth black banner on it,
Yeah.
that we don't have any more of in the city. I can't tell you how many people have asked me where they can buy one of those hats. We don't sell them anymore.
Well, we can get some. That's not a problem.
We could, maybe you order the band with Portsmouth Proud on it.
We could do that.
But the hat itself is a really great hat because it's got a back to it and not just a front.
Have you seen her hat, Mr. Pace, that she stole?
Yes, I know which one.
Okay.
I gathered some for her for someone she would give them to. So yeah,
So we'll
we know
order
that.
some.
We'll get some. Thank you so much.
We asked the city attorney's office, the city attorney, to bring back a report on non-agenda speakers, and Solomon sent everyone an email with changes. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at it. I know that some have said thanks. We need to discuss this at some point in time. Are you prepared to discuss it tonight, or you want to do it tomorrow?
Well, I think no time like the present.
Yeah.
I read it.
Yeah.
We don't put it up.
Does anybody have any problems
No, I
with the
thought it was
change?
very good.
Yeah.
It's just going to put a lot of pressure on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But we're
think the
prepared to
changes,
help you.
Yeah.
well, the changes, I think, capture everything that council has talked about over the last several times that we've been talking about this subject. So what is the procedure for amending the document? And I'm asking that of both the clerk and the city attorney. And you're looking at each other.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, you have typically had a resolution, some formal act. Because I did not hear any feedback other than receipt, I did not prepare for tonight to put it on a slide or up for discussion so we can.
Let's do this. Do we have unanimous consensus that these changes are okay?
Well, I did, before we ask for that, I did want some clarification on something. Can I? So when I read what was sent via the attorney Ashby, what my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, the new language states that if an individual comes up to speak, of course, they can't speak specifically about or to a specific council person or individual. Is that correct? Is that what the language says?
The language says that the comment should be directed to the council as a body.
Right, it says it should be directed to the council as a body. And so it also says that the clerk will give, before that happens, she will read what the rules are in terms of coming to speak. Does it say that?
That's typically what happens every time.
Right, so the chair is the one who basically will be able to manage that process.
That's the expectation, yes.
Right, that's under Robert's rules, right. So I guess I'm fine with the fact that, the chair, based on the explanation to the citizens of what the rules are, and the chair exercising his roles and responsibilities, I'm okay with moving forward with that.
Okay. Bill?
I agree, and I think the key is the chair with the gavel to make sure the rules are enforced equally. So, as long as that's in place, I'm okay with it.
And the second part of what you're saying too is that the comments shall be germane to what we can either act upon or influence.
Correct.
Well, anybody opposed? Can you draft this as a resolution and we'll put it on the agenda for tomorrow night?
We can, as long as I'm looking at the clerk, because the issue is going to be the update, Mayor. And if you all are fine with it and the timing of it, we'll get it done.
All right.
I'm fine.
Good?
I'm fine.
Good?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for bringing it back on the date that you said you would. Paul wanted the floor.
I'm concerned. I'm concerned with the volatility of the stock market and those pension funds. I'm concerned that as soon as we dump $5 million in, that we're going to lose it in the market. Because I don't see any changes or haven't been made aware of any changes that have been made or any fail-safe programs of investment that we have that are volatile. So when I'm not abreast on things like that, especially after we've lost as much as we have, I feel like as a council person, I'm not doing my duty because that needs more of our attention, I would think. Again, it's not a mere commodity. This is something big. So we need to, I feel, keep an eye on that daily because of the volatility and know what changes have been made, radical changes, immediate changes to reverse the polarity of our slide. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Very good point. The retirement board gets a periodic report from its investment advisor and then sets the categories of investment with everybody's consensus. How about if we ask for the same type of briefing that the retirement board gets? And they got it recently, is that correct?
We did. And one of the things, just if I could add to the discussion, one of the things that Dr. Patton and I and Councilman Battle had talked about, I think I serve as the liaison on the retirement board, so I would be more than happy, Councilman Battle, all of us to sit down prior to that and look at the information. That way we could look and delve into it individually as it relates to what's being proposed, and that way we may be able to answer some questions. So what we'll do is coordinate a situation, and I know Attorney Ashby is very well versed with it as well, and perhaps maybe one of Ms. Spivey would that way we'll have a better understanding of what actually is taking place.
But yeah, but I get an empty feeling when we're not, when you're just giving me a report. I would like for the report to identify changes and things to keep us from going there anymore. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
These are the
Councilman.
things that are extremely important to me.
Absolutely, and in that sit down, it will probably include a lot of that.
Yes, sir.
That will make it a much clearer,
Thank you.
clear path for you.
Lisa's asked for the floor.
Just wanted to come back to you on a follow-up about the derelict structures, the two ones that were taken.
Dispense with the retirement thing first.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm
Any other
sorry.
questions? Okay.
Is your question?
Mine's not
Okay.
retirement.
Let's make sure, we're going to ask the city manager to bring the retirement board's financial investment advisor and manager to give the same briefing to city council that it's given to the retirement board.
You just did.
And to do that, can you do it in August? Can you get that done?
Who is that person? See, I'm
Mayor,
not on the
Vice
board.
Mayor, members of City Council, as you all might be aware of, John Hancock and our advisors come in quarterly to provide that report. I'm not sure what the...
Don't wait till the next quarter. I think that what you need to do is to try to schedule it as quickly as you can.
It's next month.
With comfort to the members of the council.
They come next month, Mr. Glover. She said they come next month.
Reports are made most of the time to surface good light things or
retirement,
unless someone like me asks for the questions that I'm asking. How did we get there? How can we stop the slide? How can we identify those items that we consider fail-safe that are volatile? How can they better identify the market atmosphere? See, these are the things I want. I'm not looking for, here's a case in point. You get an agency and it's going to do a report on itself. It's going to do a report that shows good favor, but if there's an independent agency, they usually have the latitude to give you a better assessment than a person that's evaluating themselves. And
I understand completely. I understood the first time. And what I was articulating is not a report, but the people that are available to answer your question. And asking the city manager to have those people here at a future meeting.
But I think more importantly is what Mr. Glover suggested,
And
that can
would
happen quickly.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is we need a sense of urgency, not you can bring these in a future meeting. This is something, when we're losing money, we have to have a sense of urgency. You're not going to lose your money and not have a sense of urgency. Neither one of us on this board are going to lose our money and not have a sense of urgency.
Maybe you didn't hear me say to the city manager that bring this back as soon as possible.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
We'll get together.
Okay, Lisa and then Bill.
A follow-up. The last meeting, we talked about the Evans Electric and the Mary Jane Bakery being taken down, and they were used with CIP funding. We
Yes, you
wanted an
wanted
update on
you'll get
what
that
that
tomorrow.
was, and if we could have used funds from the derelict structure bill that went into play on July 1. It's $1 million that's offered to localities that have derelict structures like Portsmouth. And I don't know how you apply for it or how you get the funding, but it was money that was allocated for use of buildings like that or taking down derelict structures.
Right. Once you shared that with me, Vice Mayor, and I came back and talked with our legislative manager and with Mr. Moore, the $1 million of which we are speaking, the application to enter your application happens August 15th. And Economic Development is preparing the application, but no one has applied yet because the opening date is August 15th. And the city's application will be going forward on the 15th, electronically. All of it's done electronically. The demolition cost and CIP, that's a report back tomorrow that you have asked. Okay.
I was recently made aware by a board member of People for Portsmouth that all of us are familiar with, that they inquired about the use of the council chambers for upcoming forum, I take it for the 2020 election. And obviously all of us are here by the political process, but I think it's germane on us to come up with some policy on the use of the council chamber. I know in the past we've allowed groups to use the chamber, and I'm told that the board member inquired about the use of the video equipment, and that they would pay for the expense of that, whatever that expense is. And I'm sharing this because I think we need to come up with a policy, and maybe staff can get back with a recommendation and we can discuss it as a council, because we do have some time, but I think we need to have something in place before we go into 2020.
No one has inquired through the city manager.
Yeah. Deborah, did you have a response?
No, sir.
Okay. Shannon.
So, based on my understanding, when that request was made, and I think it was for this upcoming election, which is in 2019, the emphatic response back from the city clerk was, you will be allowed to use the chamber, but under no circumstance will there be any video taping. That was the clear answer that our clerk, and I believe that was probably based on a policy that is already in place. So what I'm saying is we don't tape political events based on what the city clerk indicated.
Yeah, I know we haven't, but if a group is willing to pay for the use of that, I just want to make sure whatever we decide that we have it in writing.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was for the 2020. You may be right, 2019.
I haven't gotten any inquiry.
I'm just sharing this so we can discuss it at maybe if not at tomorrow's work session, at the next work session.
Get the legal.
Wait a minute, hold on. Paul's got the floor.
Is that appropriate to do political situations on the city
We've done it
property?
for years, as long as they were nonpartisan, as long as everybody was invited.
Well, nobody's nonpartisan. If you have a political action group, they have their agenda. Each of them have their agendas. So I really, we're getting into a touchy situation doing that, and, you know, I don't. And then when we talk about one political action group able to pay over another, then the more we go in it, the more, you know, the worms are not smelling too well here. So
That's what we're talking about.
That's why we need to discuss it, and whatever we have in place, it needs to be in writing.
Right.
All right, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm saying.
It's clear. We won't have it back tomorrow.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Any discomfort by anybody
He's expressed.
about what we're asking staff to do? Okay,
We're good. We'll work on
I think we've gone through our agenda.
it. We have, sir.
We are going to adjourn and then convene at 5 o'clock tomorrow. We got a full,
We're gonna come back tomorrow.
pardon me?
So much fun, we're gonna come back tomorrow.
We got a full agenda tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, this thing-
Yeah, we do have a full agenda.